What up, YouTube? So, my buddy Dan commented on my last video, and then I was looking at his channel, and then I was looking at the people he subscribed to, and I went down a little small rabbit hole, and he subscribed to this channel called Lifespan News, I believe it is, and I watched this video where the guy was responding to a Brian Johnson speech, and then I'm now responding to that. So, yeah, I'm reading. So if I look away a little bit, I'm reading off the screen over here. Um, yeah, so the video was an analysis of the speech and the philosophy of an entrepreneur named Brian Johnson, not the Liver King, who's also by that name, but a tech entrepreneur whose current obsession is maximizing his health through following recommendations of an AI system that analyzes meta studies and his own biomarkers, which he studies obsessively, getting blood drawn and skin taken and who knows what else. Um, I'll link to the video below so you could watch it. I thought it was fascinating. Um, to summarize, Brian argued that the human brain is not up for the challenge of decision making in the modern world, not the individual human, nor the collective mass of minds. His solution is to outsource most of his decisions about what to eat, how much to sleep, what supplements to take, etc., to his algorithm. The mind is dead, he proclaims. So you can see why people would have a strong visceral reaction to that, as did the YouTuber who I'm going to link to. Yeah, the YouTuber representing Lifespan News reacted to his statements, reacting to his statements, dubbed his philosophy as depressing, lacking in freedom, fun, humanity. Even I found his revulsion with what Johnson was saying understandable. I'm just gonna scroll down. Um, and I and had I heard this about 20 years ago, I would have probably wholeheartedly agreed with him. However, at this point in my life, having watched the choices of my parents, my peers, my own choices, and the choices of society, I find myself resonating with Brian. I'm not saying we should put our faith in any algorithm someone's trying to sell us, although to be real, we do anyway. Take chess, for instance, if you're following me as a chess player. When analyzing games, grandmasters will defer to the computer analysis, which makes sense. The machines think billions of times faster than us, can reach more depth of understanding of any given position in a couple of minutes than we probably could in a lifetime. So, yeah, if someone's new to town, they're going to turn on their sat nav. In America, we just say GPS, but kind of like sat nav. Anyway, they turn it on rather than querying people on the street for directions, unless they want to have a little bit of fun by taking a risk. But if you want to play it safe, you trust the algorithm. Anyway, Johnson is rich and he doesn't need to trust Google. He's created his own system, and if he's to be believed, it works for him. Um, Humans didn't evolve to thrive in our modern world. We didn't evolve for globalization, fast food, pornography, hundreds of factors beyond our control pushing our buttons every day. Most people, religious or atheist, will agree that there is a higher intelligence than any individual human, whether supernatural or not, whether intentional or not, is up for debate. So, if you're an atheist, you could argue like evolution is a force beyond our control, the weather, everything, you know, the most intelligent person in the world is still at the mercy of all the elements surrounding them, the society they live in, etc. Um, Yeah, to me, Brian giving his life over to be managed by intelligence that supersedes his own is not as radical as it appears at first. It doesn't seem that much different from a married man who forgoes certain freedoms for the greater good of family stability, or someone morbidly obese making different dietary lifestyle choices just to survive. When I think about my own life, my own decisions, there's a lot of uncertainty. I don't think I'm a stupid guy, but when I think about some of the most important decisions I've made in my life, as well as my everyday lifestyle choices. There's not a whole lot of depth of reasoning behind them. I do my best, I really do, but then again, so does everyone else. Many of the decisions made by my parents regarding me when I was a kid were absolutely idiotic. But if I really think about what they're coming from, the influences and pressures on them, from outside society, from, whatever was going on with them, you understand. If you really, really look at someone's life, no matter how irrational they seem, if you understand what's going on in their head, what's going on biochemically in their bodies, what's coming at them from their families, their peers outside, you can at least try to understand. So, Um, yeah, I'm doing my best. Yeah, as I said, I'm doing my best, but it just isn't that well organized, and I'm not alone in this. I'm reading this book right now about the Cultural Revolution in China. It's really good. It doesn't get me as emotional as reading about North Korea. It did. I went through this North Korean phase where I read like 3 or 4 books about the situation there in like the 80s and 90s, and it's really like if it doesn't make you emotional, there's something really wrong with you. But yeah. So anyway, I'm reading about that, and it's fascinating how the horror show that is human history could have possibly happened, and how always people are surprised. We collectively respond to one trauma with another each time, thinking we're finally going to get it right this time, and we're finally, or at least finally, learn our lesson. Um, yeah, I could go down that rabbit hole, but I'm going to continue reading. So now Brian's little health algorithm to maximize his heart. Damn. His heart, liver, health, pancreas, whatever is one thing. Um, Whereas a formula for societal flourishing and of poverty, best practices for land use to stave off a biospheric collapse is orders of magnitude larger, and it involves complexity that even those who create it will not understand. Not only must we trust their intentions, always tricky trusting the intentions of those with power, but also their competency and the competency of the programmers. So it's overwhelming even to think about just the amount of trust that we have to place in higher ups at a point in human history where trust and authority is just plummeting. Um, yeah, but we can't get away from the reality summarized by Einstein. We can't solve problems by using the same level of thinking or the same kind of thinking that we used when we created them. But how do we get beyond that thinking? There's a YouTube clip of every president since Nixon, and I'll try to look that up and add it, barring Trump, I believe, promising to tackle environmental issues. Each of them sounds earnest, and each of them has failed. I think at this moment in history, it's perfectly understandable to seek how do you pronounce, Deus ex machina, um, the machine saving the day, basically. God in the machine, I believe it's literal translation. So everyone has a God, from a biblical one to a belief in the market, which even self-proclaimed communists often seem to have, except instead of consumer pressure, they believe in a revolutionary pressure where people, the poor, just can't take anymore and they rise up. Whereas like a libertarian would believe like if people are dissatisfied, they're going to find a market solution. I'm not really of that persuasion. Obviously, people will try to find a market solution, but what they think is in their best interest is going to be marketed to from like when they're babies. So, someone's unhappy, buying a new set of speakers is not going to necessarily make them happier. Not to mention, you know, global catastrophic um, biospheric collapse, the oceans acidifying, the Gulf Stream could, I don't know. I'm not a climate scientist. I'm not trying to go down that rabbit hole because everyone, you know, has their own beliefs about that. But it seems pretty clear to me that there's a lot of environmental problems. I think anyone could admit there's a lot of environmental problems, and it's not just going to happen because a bunch of people are buying the right products on Amazon. So, anyways, um, I find the belief that many seem to have in the inevitability of a divine solution, whether God, market, or human mass movement driven, is a bit lazy. When I think about the seemingly arbitrary and random factors that have driven my own life, where I was born, who my parents were, where I went to school, the medical wisdom of the day, who's around me, how I chose my activities and relationships, it's hard to believe in inevitability. Life happens and we adapt as best we can. The point of this video is the clinging to stupid freedom. I like this expression, stupid freedom. I never seen anybody use it before, but which is never truly free, parentheses, which is never truly free anyway. We are always conditioned by our genetics and environment to act the way we do. So where's the freedom? Yeah. For the sake of seemingly controlling our lives is a false choice. Total freedom isn't fun, it's chaos. Not saying we should naively give control to any human, artificial entity, system, or deity that claims to be in our best interest, but to not recognize our own limitations guarantees failure. The dinosaurs couldn't create a higher order intelligence to watch over their interest and are no more. Humans have the chance to do better, We may not, we may hasten our doom, but we can try. So thanks for listening, and please share your thoughts. In closing, um, I'll just say, yeah, when you're someone with chronic pain, I've been in like chronic pain for like 20 years, 22 years. I'm 44, so yeah, about half my life or a little more, probably around 21 and a half. And so, yeah, when you live like this, it's hard to ever really accept the status quo, accept what's been given to you, and you're always and just kind of accept that, oh, if I just make the right choices, if I just control, you know, rigorously control my diet, my thoughts, my emotions, my body through my own mental power, that I'm going to be able to solve the problem. Because you know what, I haven't. And can I trust society to solve the problem? Can I trust the current medical system? Not particularly. Can I trust culture in general? Like, as Terence McKenna would say, culture is not your friend, not necessarily because of maliciousness, but just because, yeah, people are just like me. They're just doing their best based on very limited information with a high level of stress, a high level of distraction, which is only getting worse and worse. So, yeah, it's scary to think about. If you think about like people who are conspiratorial, it's easy to them to be like, oh, there's these elites and they're controlling everything and they have a plan. And that sounds terrifying, right? But what's even more terrifying is to think, damn, everyone else is as dumb as me. Like it doesn't matter how much power or control or confidence they put off. Yeah. I mean, you think about Jeff Bezos like having hundreds of billions of dollars and he still cheats on his wife and loses half his money. Elon Musk like buys Twitter and crashes it and loses like billions of dollars and can't help but like tweet at like 5 in the morning to like try to get attention and validation from others. Oprah Winfrey has, I don't know how many. I was just thinking about her today after not thinking about her for like, you know, 10 years or something, but I was thinking about how hard it is to like eat properly, even if you have a vision of what that means to you. And I'm just thinking, here's someone, she could literally hire a therapist to like sit next to her all day and guide her decisions, a professional chef to buy all the ingredients, like, and yet she would still like gain and lose weight really rapidly. I don't know what she's up to lately. Hopefully she's good. But you know what I'm saying? Like people, I think this is why I've had trouble putting my faith in the future and putting my faith in like a better version of myself or a more informed version of myself, right? Because how many self-help books have you read? How many diet, philosophy, neuroscience, you're if you're anything like me, you're probably obsessed with this stuff, and you read, you constantly imbibe all this, and yet without like a really structured system to regiment your life, that's not some book from 2000 years ago. It's not the latest book that you got off the shelf that claims to have the 5-step plan, but it's something like evolving, um, and based on data and based on your own data. Yeah, it's hard also not to like watch someone like Brian Johnson and be envious because the guy's got like hundreds of millions of dollars to spend. You know, I think he says he spends $2 million on his body every year, like measuring his blood and his hair and his urine and like all this stuff to try to optimize the algorithm that's going to optimize him. And I can see why people would be a little repulsed by that, be like, oh, it's very self-indulgent, it's very self-centered. But on the other hand, you have to start with yourself. Like your job first and foremost is to take care of yourself and your family. um I mean, that's, having a small baby right now is motivation for me to like, I'm 44. I want to be alive, not only alive, but I want to be healthy and stronger than I am now when she's, 15, 20, 25 years old. Not to mention my daughter in America and my girlfriend and her 4-year old. So there's a lot of reasons outside of myself to want to thrive. And I think that's one thing we're missing in the modern world as well. There's all this focus on self optimization, but without optimizing society, starting with ourselves, moving on to our family, to our friends, to society, there's no hope for individuals. There's no like little islands that we can run off to and weather the storm. Like we're all interconnected in a global economic system, and the average individual today is like their actual personal power, if you think about it, is like they can hammer a nail in the wall, they can go to work, they can get a paycheck, they can like, I'm drinking out of this. Can I make this? I don't know how to make this. I have no idea how to make this. Do I know how Wi-Fi works? Do I know how electricity works? Do I know how this message is being transmitted to you? Like every individual person is like knows very little, and it's scary to think how vulnerable we are. Like a hunter in primordial times, he knew he could make his own bow. He knew he could go and kill something and bring it home so his family can eat. Maybe he didn't have medical care. He didn't know what his liver was. He didn't know what the stars were. He might, get bitten by a rattlesnake and die at age 25. I'm not trying to romanticize the past. I certainly wouldn't want to live in the past. Um, but there's probably just a level of confidence in oneself that nowadays we can only, we can't even imagine. I can't even imagine knowing, like having a feeling that I could go outside my door and just survive, and that I knew my bandmates, like my brothers and sisters, and just like any office politics, like I would like some of them, I would hate some of them, but like we were all united and we would protect each other and we would survive, and maybe we'd be genocided, next generation, and there's no certainty or safety anywhere, but I don't know. It's just these are like my obsessive thoughts about the modern world, and yeah, I think I really like Brian Johnson like as a figure. I think he's very polarizing, but I like what he says. I think people have this visceral reaction that like, oh, to give over control is to be weak. To give over control means you're like not truly human. You're not having fun. You can't take risks. I mean, you could put the risks into the algorithm, and I'm not saying even if I had $1 billion, that I would want to feed all my decisions into an algorithm to then feed back to me what I'm supposed to do with my life. Like I do like having my so-called freedom, even though free will, I'm not so sure about that one. But yeah, I think if I don't know, I think it's like a limited worldview to think, oh, I have to be free, I have to get drunk, I have to do this, I have to do that. If I can't eat chocolate cake, I might as well like slit my wrists. Like, I mean, maybe you could make a chocolate cake like it's really good for you. Maybe you could, you know, find ways to find joy and satisfaction, and I mean, I'm sure the algorithm would tell you to like make more friends, have more social groups, have more variety and randomness in your life. Um, I can see how, yeah, there's when people think about the algorithm, they think about the algorithms that are preying on them, right? Like Facebook, Google, um, all the advertisements they see all day. Everything is driven to capture your attention, and yeah, and it's not economically feasible for people to necessarily make their own. But this is the age we live in, and you have to tweak these things for your own benefit. So anyway, you can see when I go off script, I go a little hither and thither. But I hope you enjoyed, and most importantly, please comment, because me talking to an electronic device and a light fixture and a Christmas tree is like, it's not what I come here for. I come here to make connections, even if you're thousands of miles away. So anyway, thanks for watching.